The last of our third-party devices that we're going to take a look at is going to be our Sensibo device. So let me just add a new folder, Sensibo. And I'm just going to add a new HTTP driver for Sensibo as well, Sensibo. So like I mentioned in the beginning, the Playbox devices that we integrated were basically direct IP. So we were using their IP address to communicate with them. But when it comes to Sensibo, it's a little bit different. We're going to be using their cloud basically to communicate with the device. So there are a couple of things that need to be done before we can start the integration process. The first thing is we need to register an account on Sensibo, and we will also need to register the device, because each command that we're going to be using today, every command is going to require an API key. And the only way for you to get this API key is to register the device and register on the website. It says here in the authentication, you can see when you sign in for the account, you can then generate an API key here. So if I click this, I am already registered and the account is active. So I can see my API key here is available, right? So one thing that we need to do before we get started, we need to save this API key in bOS. Because Sensibo will not allow me, this API key isn't available in the response. So there's no way for me to get this API key except I log in and create an account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this API key before we get started. And I'm just going to add a string and add this API key in. So API key, and under values, I'm just going to paste this in. So now we have this API key ready to be used when we are going to be interacting with the API. Okay, so I think we can close this. We got the API key, and this is the Sensibo API documentation. As you can see, they have, each manufacturer has the manual written a little bit differently, and we can see they have, some common examples here, and then they have, the commands. So the get commands, post commands, they are all individually listed here under the specific node. I would say it's very similar to Playbox in a way. It's clear to understand and it's easy to read. So to get started, we can check our most common examples of the API commands, and we can see that each command has a URL for the API, and we can see that now. Get all device information. We get, and then we have HTTPS home Sensibo API v2, and then it goes different. Then we have users. Then we have pods and so on. So that's when the URL is going to be different. So I am going to use this part of the URL for the host URL here. So we're going to paste it here. And I just leave it as it was, and I'm going to enable it just for now. And the first command that we're going to be checking is going to be the device information. One important thing why we're going to be doing this, because if we look at any other of my commands, we can see that each and every command is going to require a device ID, right? And you can get this device ID by either connecting to your pod and get the data here on the device. So this is the ID. Or we can parse the data out from the first command, so from the device information command. So we have the URL set, so home Sensibo API v2, and then we can go to API v2, and then we're gonna copy the rest of the command here. And I'm gonna create a new command. Let's call it info, right? They have it. Device info. Let's call it device info. Device info. And if we go to the manual, we can see this is a get command. So we're going to leave it at get. And the only thing that we need to do is we need to go here and we're going to paste the command. And as you can see, the only thing that we are now missing is the API key. But if you remember, we saved the API key in the string. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the %0 to call out that string. So Sensibo API key, and use that value and click OK. And now if everything is correctly, if I run this command, okay, API key did not go through. Let me just check API v2. API users, we use the right users v2. Okay, let me just double check. Usually I'm not sure how I write the command here. So users pods field API key is 0. Okay, so theory should be okay. Let me just restart it. The device, I think it's running, yeah. Yeah, I'm running, so device info. Okay, valid. Oh, okay, now it's working. Okay, I double checked that the device was plugged in, but it was. So the only thing that I changed is basically I just used the host URL here instead of there. Now it's okay. So we did get a successful response for the device, which is perfect. So again, like we did with the Playbox, I'm gonna copy the response, and we're gonna go to our trusted online editor. Because if I paste the command here, you can see that the response is extremely, massive. Basically, we received basically everything that the device has to offer is now available here in this response. So to have this in any readable format, the only thing to do is to go to tree view, and now we can see the response, clearly, and everything is here. And here you can see one important thing that I mentioned earlier that we require, which is the ID of the device. So we're gonna of course parse this data out. So we're gonna go here. I'm gonna add a no, under the device info, we're gonna add a string, and it's all this ID. And of course, we are now parsing the data out. So we need to go where this ID is located, and we can see that the ID is located in the result in the array number 0. So we need to go result 0 dot, and where is it? Result, where was it? It's ID. Result dot ID. Okay, let's double check if it's results or result. Okay, it's result. And if I run this function again, hopefully the ID, as you can see, the ID has now been populated. And now we can start, also sending the commands, because if we check the instructional manual for this, okay, I can turn these down. If we check the instructional manuals for all of the commands that we have here, you can see that each command requires this device ID. So this is that's why we parse the ID out. But if we look through the response that we got from the device, we can also see that here it should have measurements, and here we can also see the current temperature value and humidity and so on from the device. So it's important, or it's desired for us to parse this data out as well. So we are going to go here and we're going to add a new double in. Let's call it temperature, because we're going to parse the current temperature out. And again, like we did with the rest, we are going to go through the response and get to this temperature basically. So we can see the temperature is under result, right? So it's under result in the 0 array. So result 0 dot, then we have 0 dot measurements, right? So I can actually copy this so I don't make a typo. Measurements. And then under measurements, we have temperature. So that's why we need to also type in dot measurements or temperature. And now that we have all this array, all this command filled out, if we run the command again for the device info, the temperature value, as you can see, has been populated, and now you can see it's 25.2 degrees. Of course, I'll change it later as well. We have humidity as well, so we can copy this to make it a little bit easier. Humidity. And just change, of course, the command from the temperature to humidity. Humidity. Click OK. Okay, we can now run again this command, and we can see the temperatures here, and then humidity is also here. And of course, since this is, we have templates for these, we can go to the values here and just change the temperature to temperature template, and then also the humidity is here. We have humidity as well, so humidity in percents, and click OK. And now if you go back to the temperature and humidity, you can see that they have templates for the degrees Celsius and of course the humidity as well. And this is basically the whole principle of, or the whole process when it comes to the third-party integrations. You would read the instructional manual, see what's the command and how the command looks, and then you would go to bOS and try to post these commands here. So we are now receiving data from the device. We are receiving data for the temperature and the humidity. But this, if we go to the control of the device, you can see that we can also turn the AC on, we can turn the AC off, we have different modes, we have set point temperatures, and of course we have fan speed as well. So all of these information can actually be controlled, and all this data can be sent from bOS as well. And of course, the best and probably the only way to do it is, of course, go back to the instructional manual and read the commands that we need to send. So you can see here we have turn on AC, right? So we are turning on the AC unit here. So I'm going to be adding a new command. Let's say turn on AC, or just, yeah, turn on. How about our AC on? Let's say AC on. We need to go to the values, so we can go here to, as you can see, it's a little bit different. So we go pods and copy this part of the URL. And of course, if we check at the instructions, we can see that now we are using post command. So we need to change the method type from get to post. And now we're going to be pasting the URL or the command here. And of course, you can see we need to fill out this information. So we need to fill out the device ID, which is going to be %0. So we're going to be adding our device ID and the API key. This is going to be %1. Add API key. Okay. Now this is the command that we are sending, and now we need to check basically the command itself. So this is the post. This is the command that we are sending basically. So this is the one that we need to put here into post data. So we go to post data and post this in. The only thing that we need to change here, we need to remove these backslashes because this will not work if we add the backslashes in. But you can see now that we are changing the AC state to true, which means that we are basically sending, we're turning on the AC unit using this command. So if everything goes correctly, if I run this function, we did get a response. And if I go to the website, if I refresh it, we can see now the AC unit has been turned on. So using this post command and bOS, the command, we turn the AC unit on. We can also, of course, create another command for, let's say, the AC off, and just change here the state from true to false, like so. And I will show you also when it comes when it will come to mode and fan speed. I'll show you a little fancier version how you can do this by using the mode task that we provide. But for AC off, if I run this command now, settings false. If I refresh the page, we can see now the AC unit has been turned off. So this is basically, the way you would interact with the, let me just check what's going on there. Training material by email, okay. Training will be recorded, okay, no problem. Seems to be clear so far. So yeah, like I said, we are turning the device on and off, but we can also change the modes for the device. So fan speeds, with the way the device is working and so on. To do this, of course, we go back to our API. And here you can see that we have different AC states, right? So on, was basically for turning it on and off. Mode is, for changing the current mode. And if you go to the scheme, we can see that, mode will accept, cool, heat, fan, auto, and dry. So all of this information can be now added in. So what I am going to do is I am going to copy, let's say, AC on command, just because we already have everything set up and ready. So I'm going to copy it, and I'm just going to rename it mode. And I think this one should also be filled out. And the only thing that now that we are changing is basically the post command, because the general command is exactly the same. But the only thing that we are changing here is we need to change this, the AC state. So for mode, so what we need to do is I'm going to go to here and I'm going to change this on to mode. So mode. And one thing to note here is also that the on and off was a state, basically, which means that it wasn't sending a string value, which means that it doesn't require these quotation marks. But if we are sending a string value, we need to also use these quotation marks in as well. So let's say we are going to be sending, let's check what's currently happening with the device. Currently, it's on cool. So let's just add heat. So instead of sending true, I'm going to add quotation mark and add heat. Okay, so we changed the on to mode and, true, false to heat, basically. And if I send this command, hopefully we're going to receive a response, correct, which we did. And if I go to the website and if I refresh it, you can see that now the mode has changed from cool to heat. This is an excellent way of communicating and basically controlling the device as well. And of course, instead of creating, 5 commands for heat, cool, fan, dry, whatever, we can actually create just one command named mode here. And we can add a mode variable in. And then we can populate this mode variable with the commands that are acceptable by the API, right? So we can go to my mode. Under collection, I'm going to add, cool. Again, remember, everything is case sensitive, so we need to have it written exactly as it is. I think we have dry, and I think we also have, let's just put fan. Okay. So now we have these the mode is now populated with the correct, let's say, values that are accepted. And now we go to our mode, but instead of sending a direct value, we're going to be calling out the mode variable. So %0, we're going to go to mode, and click OK. And the only thing that we can now do is we can also add a trigger. So trigger is going to, let's just say, every time my mode variable changes, send the command, right? So every time now, if I go to mode and if I change it from heat to, let's say, fan, the command is going to be sent. And if we go to the device and if everything is correctly, we can see the mode has changed to fan, right? And if I want to change it back, we can go back here and set it to cool. And again, this will trigger the send trigger. The command is going to be sent. And if I refresh it back, we can see the mode has been changed to cool. And then exactly the same principle would apply to the set temperature, fan levels. I think these activate react, I don't think it works. But temperature, mode, fan levels. The only thing they need to do is you need to read the manual and change these commands here. So fan level, target temperature, and we will go to bOS and change this value here. That's basically the only thing that we need to change in order to control other devices. And yeah, basically that is the communication that is when it comes to the, let's say, cloud API connectivity. The first example that I showed was direct IP, and now is basically the cloud connection.